y'all. This is Stacy with the Craft Room Diaries. Thanks for visiting today. Have you ever found yourself wanting to use a certain journaling or sentiment card on your layout, but it was the wrong size or orientation? Today I'm going to share with you a quick trick for fixing that. I was just getting started with this layout. I had this card in my folder with plans to use it with this picture of my husband teaching my daughter how to check the tire pressure on her car. I usually make a 6-month layout plan, which is really just a list, chronological list of events that I want to document. I do it on a spreadsheet. And then I have these little folders that I just put stuff in as I'm going through my stash. If I find something that goes with that, I'll just stick it in the folder. But I'll save showing you guys how I do this, that whole process, for another day. But I had this card, and of course it was too big for the pocket that I needed it for. So you could, of course, just go back to digging through your stash. And I do that quite often. I find myself just digging in a black hole of cards looking for something else. What do you do? Drop me a note in the comments below. I love learning what other scrappy friends do with things like this. What I often do to just save time from digging through all of these cards, and especially since I really wanted to use this one, is I'll recreate and resize the card. So what I'm doing here is I'm going to go ahead and scan this card. Notice that I put a piece of black cardstock behind it. It just scans a whole lot better that way. I also set my resolution at 600 to try to give a really good quality. And so I just selected the area to scan. Okay, once I had it scanned, I go into Cricut Design Space and I am going to upload that scan that I just did. It's going to be the last thing, of course, on my desktop that I scanned. I use Complex for my upload since it is a detailed card. And then once it's loaded, I'm going to erase that black background. It just makes it easier to erase if you've got a contrasting color that you scanned it onto. And sometimes I get a little anal if there's some little specks. I'll, get the manual eraser out and just try to erase some of those little specks. But I really wouldn't have had to do that here because I am going to be cropping it anyway on Design Space. So once I've got that erased, I'm going to select Continue. And I'm going to save it as a print then cut image. And select Next, I believe. For some reason, it doesn't show on my screen. So once it's uploaded, now I'm going to choose it, and I'm going to put that on my mat. Okay, it comes out oftentimes it comes out giant because of the size. I did it at 600, so I'm just going to resize this down to something closer to what I'm going to be working with. I'm sizing this down to a 3x4 card to fit in the pockets. Also, this is a card with a rounded edge, which I really wanted it to be a square edge since the other side of the pocket that I'm using, it just makes it easier with not having to round the corners of the photo that may be behind it. So I'm just going to use a simple square and line it up with the edges that I'm going to be cutting off. So I'm just going to slice it. Now you could also just as easily print this and then just crop it, just print it a tiny bit bigger and then just crop those rounded edges off. But I did it this way just to kind of show you how selecting both of the items, the box and the card, and then choosing slice. And then I'm just going to delete the excess and go ahead and print and cut. Now, one of the things that I do when I want to have a really good quality print on something that I'm printing and cutting, especially something like this, is I use a matte photo paper. You can also use a matte presentation paper that works just as well, but I do find that the resolution looks a whole lot better than just printing on plain cardstock. And then if you're going to be using matte photo paper or any type of photo paper for that matter, be sure to select Use System Dialog. This is going to allow your printer dialog box to pop up. Sometimes it'll pop up behind, but it'll pop up and then you can choose photo paper, matte photo paper, and then you can also, for most printers, select instead of standard print, you could set high quality print. And it just makes a much nicer print. I also did the same thing with this coaster. I like to pick up coasters from restaurants sometimes, especially if it's somewheres that I've it's like the first time I'm going there, and I think it's really cool. But of course, the size wouldn't have fit. So I did the same thing where I scanned it with a piece of black, just put a piece of black cardstock behind it, scanned it at 600 DPI to make sure that I get a good quality resolution. I suppose you could go higher than that, but I scanned that and then again just uploaded that into Design Space, and again use complex. If I'm doing something really simple, I may not use complex. If it's just a standard, black and white, or if it's got a lot of differences in color, no differences in color. If it's just maybe two tones, I'll just use regular, the simple. But most of the times I do use complex, so I just find it comes out much nicer. And I actually ended up doing a couple of different sizes because I wasn't sure what size I was going to end up using on that photo. But, again, when you print and cut, make sure to use the system dialog box so that you can set that to matte photo paper or whatever type of photo paper you're going to be using. I think these came out really nice and it fits perfectly with my layout. Thank you for joining me today. I hope you enjoyed watching this video, and if you did, please give me a thumbs up and share it with a scrappy friend. And if you're a new visitor to my channel, please consider subscribing. I hope you visit the Craft Room Diaries again soon, and I hope you're having a happy, scrappy day today.